dresses up for the both of us.
I figured Jeff goes with short pants there. I said, Bob would be in shorts, and I think Sean will be in shorts.
Yep, exactly.
So I said, yes, it's okay.
Yeah, 100%. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't even know the right apparel for this, so I'm just like, I'll show up. It'll be fun.
I was playing music at the brewery, so I just came in here like 5 minutes of the
Yeah, I think we have snacks. I just got here, so I don't really know what's going on. But
You guys pick us, or
my mom would know. She was the one telling people it's easy.
And you're going to be there with Bob's dad, with Steven and his sister. This is Di. Have you guys met? You guys met at the wedding.
Isn't that the way? All right, can everyone hear me in the back? Okay, good. It's turned up very loudly so that all of our speakers can be heard really clearly, and I'm leaving it down at their level, so that'll kind of moderate our volume. So if we get too loud or too quiet, if people in the back can give us thumbs up or thumbs down, higher or lower or good as we go, and we're happy to adjust it. We want to make sure everyone can hear what we're saying today, all right? Did all of you get an opportunity to look at all the mementos in the back? Some beautiful stuff back there. I want to thank my family for setting all that up. My cousin Angelique, Carrie, Rose, my mom. There's a lot of stuff back there that even I didn't quite know or had realized. It's pretty amazing. When it takes up that many tables, right? So I'm sure it's one of those things where it's like everyone knows me, but I don't know everyone, because my dad told everyone everything about our family because it was always family first, right? But I will introduce myself. My name is Stephen Blakesley. I'm the oldest son of my dad, Robert Blakesley. And I want to welcome you to this celebration of life. And celebration is definitely the word today. Although sometimes I'm probably going to struggle just a little bit. But I have all my teammates in the front, so I'm sure I'll have backup. But our plan today is celebration. We want to thank you for being here to celebrate a life well lived, but also well loved. And we are here at the Springview Community Center, and I could probably just ask for a show of hands. How many of you have been here before? Oh, yeah, a lot of you. So we didn't really have a lot of signs or anything in the front. A lot of you were probably here 39 years ago, right, at my parents' wedding, okay? And some of you were probably here for Kiwanis events or the Rocklin Jubilee, or, you know, maybe you're graduating from 6th grade or 8th grade or whatever. This has been used a lot, so a perfect venue, right? Now, you may see that everything is blue. I mean, blue absolutely permeated my dad's life. And so I thought, you know, I don't know a lot about blue, even though I like blue. So I thought I'd Google it. And I found out what it means. And it fit really well. Blue, it symbolizes serenity, stability, inspiration, wisdom, and health. Now, health, of course, something went wrong there. But that might have been part of the inspiration, right? Now, stability and serenity. I cannot tell you how many times I came to my dad for advice and even-keeled perspective. I had a moment last week where I would have liked to be able to do that. He was always there for that. Some of you might even know, even like the family know this better than anyone, is that even asking my dad what he wanted for dinner was very tricky sometimes, because he was always so easygoing of, oh, whatever. Now, there were a few things he really didn't want. He didn't want bananas anywhere near him. But overall, although he ate the fried bananas, we'll never forget that. He didn't know they were fried bananas, but he liked them. We'll never let him live it down. But he always put others' needs in front of his own. And you could rely on my dad for help whenever you needed it. Google also tells me that blue can be a calming color and that it symbolizes reliability. Well, my dad, again, very reliable. And as far as calming, there's multiple people in this room that grew up with my dad putting them to sleep as babies. We have lots of photos of different babies asleep with my dad. Very calming, just the way he breathed and the way he conducted himself. Something I also thought was cool is that if you think about it, the Catholics, the Virgin Mary is often depicted wearing blue. And so that's supposed to symbolize that he's full of grace. And I would think my dad had a lot of grace, right? So some of the things that are blue, LaSalle High School, blue and red. The LA Dodgers, of course. We got a Dodgers sign there in blue. Yeah. Hopefully they'll be feeling blue at the end of September. Hewlett-Packard, of course, was blue. Yeah. The Rocklin Thunder and the Rocklin Junior Thunder. And, you know, me and my brother played football for a long time. I played for 6 years. I think my brother played for 3 or 4. And my dad's involvement with the team, it outlived our time with the team. He was the treasurer, and my mom helped with the snack bar and the merchandise. And it wasn't just for us. He wanted to help the kids. And so in going with helping the kids with the color blue, as he got into retirement, he got involved with Kiwanis. I know we have a lot of Kiwanis people here. And you may have seen back there, he got Kiwanin of the Year a couple of times. And I've had a few people ask me, what can I do on behalf of your dad to help? And it was all about the kids. So anything you want to do to help kids. For my dad, it was the K kids. They would go out and they would have him do a shopping trip. And he was always the greeter for that. And they would raise the money for that here at the park for the community festival. And then they'd go and do the K kids in the wintertime. And then last but most certainly not least, the All-American Speedway. Now, they have a seating area there that's the blue seating area. That's the family section, no smoking and no drinking. And we didn't really enforce that very well throughout my life. So my dad served as the beer police. And he would go right up to people in his very calm demeanor, you know, the way he is, like a leader. And he would say, you know, I just wanted you to know, I wanted to let you know that we prefer you didn't drink in this seating area. There's a great seat over here. And one time, he walked up to a gentleman, and he says, are you telling me that I have to move? Well, yeah, that's what we like to do. I am the beer police. Are you telling me? And my dad looks, and his shirt says Teamsters on it. And my dad said, well, okay, I think I'm just going to let this one go. So he was only a community volunteer. He wasn't an armed security guard. So we're going to begin our program with a video slideshow that celebrates his life. If you're viewing on the live stream, we won't be able to play the music online because there's copyright, of course. But you'll still get to see the photos. And everyone needs to stick around at the end of the video. There's going to be some text on blue, of course. And then there's a special message at the end of the video. So we want to wait for that. And about 15 seconds of blue. And then we go into the special message. So we're going to lower these front lights here. And we'll have Kale and Angelique, who helped us set up the video. Kale's going to play it for us.
I figured I'd come out to an appropriate spot for a farewell to Bob and a good memory. As you can see behind me, we're ready today for the game between the Dodgers and the Giants here at Oracle Stadium. Good memory for me. And for all of us. Bob would like to be remembered in a fun, positive way, and so this is my way of doing it. I will miss you, but the memories are great, buddy, and this was a place where we had a lot of fun. So, again, sorry I can't be with you guys today. I have some other things going on, but hopefully you all can remember Bob in the same positive light. This is not really a day for sadness as much as it is a day for remembering the positive things and the laughs and the joy, just the way he would like it. So, here's to you, Blakesley.
All right, so I want to say thank you to everyone that helped make that video. That was pretty special, right? There were a lot of big smiles in that, and hold on real quick, this sounds loud. I think I cranked it. I was excited. There were a lot of big smiles in there, right? And it was funny. There were hundreds more photos equally as big as smiles, and my mom finally called me and said, I have no idea how I'm going to narrow this down. So we kind of took over from there because he was just such a wonderful man. Okay, so we have a couple of people that are going to come up and speak. I want to add that even though we have a few people that had let us know in advance that if there's anyone at the end that feels like they really would like to speak, we would love you to come up after. So we're going to go into the couple that we have here. So the first speaker that we have is Ron Harder. He was the president of Kiwanis and was usually the chairperson for the community festival. And my dad ended up being kind of his right-hand man. So I want to welcome Ron up here, and he'll be our first speaker.
All the applause goes to Bob. You know, Bob and I joined the Kiwanis Club the same month. I remember we sat there at the board meeting and said why we wanted to be a Kiwanian. And Bob said, well, I had retired from HP and I wanted to serve the community. And I had similar comments, but I remember Bob's. And I remember how they accepted us into the Kiwanis Club, and we began to serve together. Over the years, we did a number of things before I ever became president. We just did a lot of different things together, and one of the pictures you saw was them cooking in here for the St. Pat's dinner, okay? And we would fill this place up and have good corned beef and cabbage and raise money to help the kids. And Bob was always big on helping the kids. And that's one of the things that Kiwanis is famous for, is raising money to give underprivileged children an opportunity to have what they wouldn't normally get, such as Christmas and eventually back to school clothes. And Bob was a big part of that. This location here, for many years, was where we held the Rocklin Community Festival. And I had the privilege of chairing that. But I want to be honest with you, I could not have done that without Bob. I was talking to Stephen a little bit about that, and he said at his work he was Mr. Spreadsheet, okay? He was always figuring things out, you know? And I saw that. And every so often he would correct me on something, you know? He'd say, well, no, it's really this number, you know? And in the beginning, I would kind of react to that, you know, especially as I got into leadership. And then I realized what we had here. We had the gem of a man who could really help us be the kind of club we ought to be and do the kind of fundraising we ought to. He would keep track of everything in spreadsheets. You know, he would know who was coming to have their booths at the festival and who was registered for this and who we had and that. And so I just called Bob up and say, hey, Bob, how many kids we got going? Or how many booths do we have? And he'd have the answer, just like that, you know. And that's why I appreciated him so much. I also appreciated him so much that as time went along and we would have our festival, it got to be Bob would get over here and open the gates in the morning. Oh, before the festival ever started, he was the one that contacted all the neighbors and let them know what we're going to be making noise and all that kind of stuff, you know. He was good at that. And then he was Mr. Key Man. He had the gate keys, okay? So he would come and open up and everything for us. And then he would go, when we were setting up booths, he would help us set up booths. But we kind of did shifts, okay? And he would go home and spend a little time in the middle of the day to rest. And then he would let me go home in the evening. And I so appreciated that. Bob was a servant at heart. He was a good leader, but he was more of a behind-the-scenes guy. And I really appreciate him so much. As I got to know him better and better, my heart just grew closer to his. And I was so proud to be able to name him the Kiwanian of the Year in 2019-2020, which I was president that year. So I'm thankful for Bob, and I've enjoyed this. I brought some tears to my eyes, but I've enjoyed getting to know Bob better, getting to know the family better. And I want to ask our Kiwanians and anyone else who would like to do it to stand, please, and let's give Bob a standing ovation, shall we? Thank you very much.
Okay, our next speaker, he was pictured in there and in one of the photos in the backyard of my grandparents' house, and that was Chris Anisich. And he was one of my dad's best friends all throughout elementary school, and then they went to LaSalle together, and they have been in touch for over 60 years. It's a long time to have a friendship, so I wanted to ask Chris to come up now.
Hey everybody, thanks for asking me to say a few words. And it's really nice to see a nice crowd too. I mean, it says a lot about Bob. My name is Chris Anisich. My friendship goes back 61 years. I think he's got some, as a matter of fact, I know he's got some people that he met prior to me because I didn't get there till second grade. So he already had all these friends from first grade. It just pissed me off. But basically, I was born and raised in Montebello. I went to first grade when I was 5. That's important for later on in the story. Everybody else was 6 or 7, so I was, this tall. They were all this tall, and I couldn't do any. I couldn't drive in high school. I couldn't date in high school. I was always way too young compared to everybody else in my class. Bob was one of the older ones, not the oldest, I guess, but he was the appropriate age. Came in handy for me because he got to drive me all over the place in high school and what have you. But I was born and raised, like I said, in Montebello. I thought I was Mexican until I was 7. I had no idea. Bob was like the first tall white gringo guy I ever met, second grade. So what happened was I probably never would have even met Bob if it wasn't for a random alphabetizing in the classroom seating, because last name Anisich, there was a kid in between us named Blackstock, and then there was Blakesley, alphabetical seating. And usually they kept the girls on one side for a few years and the guys on the other side, so we were always grouped together. You turn around, there he is. I couldn't get away from him. So I always thought, well, that's kind of interesting in itself, because if his last name was Thompson, I probably still wouldn't have met him. He's sitting in the back of the room somewhere or whatever. But Anisich, Blakesley, and Blackstock actually all got together again about 4 years ago for dinner, which was really cool. I got some neat photographs and stuff of that. 3 old men sitting there, just telling lies to each other. Made some notes so I wouldn't forget some stuff. The pictures on the screen recently, just now, like you mentioned, the backyard of your parents' house and stuff. Whenever he'd come down for their birthday or anniversary or something like that, he'd always call me, say, hey, I'm going to be there Friday, are you free? And we'd always try to go to dinner. I'd go to the house. Dorothy and Jack were like super, super nice. Growing up too, feeding me and letting me mess up their house and what have you. But I was thinking as the pictures were coming up here, like his first communion picture, I got the exact same picture of him, but I also have the exact same picture of me. I go, oh yeah. 8th grade graduation, the confirmation picture, any event in the Catholic school, they had pictures. And it's like reliving my life watching his pictures, because we were always side by side. I mean, if somebody got my picture, all you got to do is move the camera this far, and he'll be standing over my shoulder trying to hog the glory. We partnered up on all kinds of stuff, that seating arrangement. We became friends, so we started, whenever they said, we need you guys to pick a partner and do a project. I've still got, probably 7th grade, I think it was, we did a science project on batteries and how batteries work, and he could type, which was like, this is really obviously before computers, but not a lot of grammar school kids could type, and he was pretty good, and I could draw a little bit, I mean, not. So I did the drawing and wrote some of the script, and then he typed everything, which I thought was the hard job, so I was fine, And I still have that report, got an A-. I don't know what the hell he did wrong, but he screwed something up. Should have had an A, but I think he had a couple of typos in there that the teacher didn't like or whatever. Another thing about us was that we were recruited by Father Pierce. You ever talk about Father Pierce? Yeah, and altar boys. Well, I got pictures of us at different ages, because we did this for years. It's like we were the only suckers that would get up at 6:30 in the morning for daily mass, and be altar servers. For years we did that. And I wound up getting the job cleaning the church when I was 9 years old because of that. So putting the envelopes in the pews for each holiday every Saturday and Sunday. Saturday I'd set it up, Sunday I'd clean it up. And that's what I did on weekends. I got 50 cents a day. I was rich. And meanwhile, Bob's out, I think mowing lawns was his big thing. Newspaper, mowing lawns, yeah. So we had money. We're 9-year-old kids with cash, man. We were doing hot stuff. But that kind of triggered us wanting to get more money, Huh?
I think it's your telephone buzzing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That must be the first grade class.
I have it up here for a reason. I want to read you a text that we did about 3. I can't shut it off. All right, thanks.
You're popular.
Yeah. But we both had jobs from like 9, 10 years old on. And, you know, we're walking around in 7th grade with, you know, quarters in our pockets. That was a pretty big deal. And eventually, I mention it because he really got into working. And he got a job at a place called Monte Vista Grove Homes. And he got me a job there, which was pretty cool. I mean, they liked him so much, they needed another kid, Chris, you know, and they hired me. Boom. We cooked, oddly enough, I mean, it's kind of ironic, I guess, but that place was a retirement home for Presbyterian ministers in the last stages of their life. So we were taking food into people who were, you know, very, very seriously ill. And that was the first time I was ever introduced to death, you know. And it really had an impact on me. But Bob and I worked there for years. Really enjoyed that. I just don't want to forget stuff here. Bowling. This is, we had money, so we were able to actually go bowling. We didn't have to always ask our parents for cash. And boy, that just resonated with us. Both of us really liked to bowl. For grammar school kids and early high school kids, we were good, you know. So we used to be fanatical about it, and we got our dads involved. And we did a foursome, the Blakesleys against the Anisiches. Didn't turn out well for me. But Bob made a championship belt, like a World Wrestling Federation, big old belt buckle, and I mean, it was nice. You know, he drew it all, made it all, and him and his dad got to wear it. So, but here's a offshoot of that story. Was we get to high school. Now we're going to an all-boys Catholic high school. Okay, not a girl within 4 miles, and I decided, because by then we were bowling all the time, and there's a bowling alley right down the street from the high school. And we were getting good, not great, but good. So I wanted to have a school tournament. Faculty, janitors, students, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, didn't matter. Collected money, I think there's like a $3 entry fee, you know. We got 25, 30 teams. And I was organizing the qualifying day, and then the top 6 teams or something like that would go to the finals. Start all over again, go to the finals. And I had to buy trophies. So Bob and I sat down, and we handicapped all the teams. They said, okay, these guys are going to win. If they're playing good, if they're bowling good, they're going to win. These guys are going to come in second. We're going to get 3rd place, So I went out and bought the trophies. Now, you have to make the 1st place trophy look nice. So I got a nice tall wooden trophy with a nice plaque on it. 2nd place trophy, not quite as tall, wood. Nice. 3rd place, we're expecting we're going to win. I mean, get 3rd place, right? So I bought this marble. It had like 2 sets of marble. Thing weighed about 3 pounds. It was 3 times more expensive than any of the wooden ones, because I'm rigging the thing so we can have a nice trophy. We won the damn tournament. You never saw 2 guys more pissed off in your life. It's like, we wanted that marble trophy, We wanted some little big old wooden thing. It's like, and just like friends, normal, I bowled my, hat off in the prelims, and he didn't do that well. We did well enough to qualify top 6. The next day for the finals, I tanked. I mean, I couldn't throw a straight ball to save my life, but and we won. We got enough total points to edge out, 2nd, 3rd place. So that was kind of funny. He was always a really consistently nice human being. I mentioned all boys Catholic school because you can imagine how raunchy that can get, 400 kids, all male, all going through, puberty or whatever. And he never, honestly, I mean, he was never one of those guys who, insulted or mistreated women. His mother, I mean, he always talked nice about her. That's hard to do with most of our moms, sometimes. But, I mean, he was always just a consistently good human being. Really, really nice guy. Let's see. There's something I wanted, the reason my phone went off is I just wanted to read you something, if I can get it. Let's see what happens here. Sorry for the delay. I was texting him a couple months ago, and I always ask, how you doing? How you feeling? And I would like to show you what he told me. That's...
Oh, not that one.
No, not that one. I might have to kind of paraphrase it, I guess. And I said, "Hey, Bob, how you doing?" And it was May of this year. And he goes, "Oh, I got a MRI coming up, and Monday, and I haven't been feeling good and all that stuff." And he goes, "But I told a friend of mine that I'll get over it. It's and she said that the only things that are going to be alive at the end of the earth are going to be Bob and the cockroaches, And he told her that she's probably right, He was a survivor. I went and said goodbye to him several times. He had a stroke, really bad stroke. God, I don't even remember what year that was. So, 8th grade? No, 83. Yeah, not 8th grade, yeah. 83, yeah. And I went to the hospital, say he was paralyzed, he couldn't speak. For a couple of years, it was a struggle to talk. And, he couldn't see it, but I'm on the other end of the phone going, come on, because he was really going slow, God forgive me, but he knows. I mean, we joke about stuff like that. Just excellent friend, and I miss the hell out of him. He's a really good guy. His family's good, I was blessed to have him in my life, so, Anyway, sorry it took so long. All right.
Okay, our next speaker, I was making the comment to a few people as we were coming in that when it came to the Hewlett-Packard people, because I was young when I saw a lot of the Hewlett-Packard people getting together, you couldn't really figure out who was the boss, who was the supervisor, where they were on the totem pole, because everyone was just a friend, everyone was an equal, and that definitely went for my godparents, and I want to bring up Dave Dressler.
Okay, I got a lot. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dave Dressler, Stephen's godparent, and also Bob's best man at Bob and Shirley's wedding. So, can you hear me okay? That's probably better, huh? Get my glasses on so I can read. Yeah, there you go. Not that tall. So there's definitely a lot of HP people here. If you guys would raise your hand just to show how many folks from HP. Just you can see that Bob left a legacy in HP that never ends. Bob had a great history with HP, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in what I've written here. So I met Bob in 1978 when I joined the customer support division to become a customer engineer. Back then, you had to work 6 months in the customer support division in the board repair area, repairing boards. Sounds boring, but it was something I had to do. So the first day I showed up to work, I was met by Bob. Bob introduced himself as my trainer. Then he quickly asked me if I was a Dodger fan. I said, no way, I'm a true Giants fan. Bob said, too bad. So instead of training me on the newest technology we had back then, He stuck me on a 2116 computer that was built in 1966. He had me working on the 2116 memory board, which is a 16K of memory, on a board about this size right here. I never forgave him for that. But, after a while, I started to be trained by Bob working on other computers and other newer technology, which I said, thank God. But that was also the beginning of our friendship, and it became a lifetime friendship. Bob loves sports, mostly baseball, bowling, of course, and car racing. We started bowling in the Bay Area HP League. Our team was called the Lickety Splits. I think he named it too, that. The team consisted of Bob, the Gressmans, my wife Nancy, and myself. We had fun times drinking lots of beer, joking around. Of course, Nancy was Bob's favorite target playing jokes on. Every time he could do it, he would just have a funny joke with her and just tease her like crazy. But this teasing continued on for 42 years to the day he passed. And he just was like a brother to Nancy, and Nancy felt like he was a brother. So it was all just good humor, though. Everything was all very nicely done, but I have to tell one story. This happened probably about 4 months ago, maybe a little longer. Nancy was at Walmart walking through the driveway, parking lot, and she felt this car sort of behind her. You know how you get that feeling someone's following you? And she's getting a little scared. She's walking a little faster. And then all of a sudden, this guy pulls down, hey, Nancy! It was Bob. I can hear Bob now doing the shark, Jaws theme song, doo-doo, doo-doo, going up to her to scare her, because that's how he was. Then Bob moved up to Roseville, and that's when car racing became a weekly event. All-American Speedway was a place to be on Sundays and Saturdays, watching sprint cars and bombers. Who remembers the bombers? It was way back. But Bob was hooked, and he never missed a week. This legacy continues today with Stephen as he went all in, making this his career. Then there was the HP Softball League. Boy. Bob played first base since he was tall, and he could stretch for my third base throws. Usually they fell short. We had an all-star team such as Bill Hare, Dave McGoffin, George Orege, Mark Frazier, and Nick Erminita, to name a few. We always had a lot of people watching us too, all the girlfriends, wives, family, and all the HP local folks that worked there. But one game we had the O'Malley girls out. The story has it that Shirley was searching for talent. She scanned the team, and Bob stood out. She picked him, of course. And they hit it off and quickly became an item. So going forward, of course, Bob and Shirley got married, eventually had Stephen and Sean. Nancy and I would watch Stephen when he was very young, when Bob and Shirley would go out on a date. We would often trade off watching Stephen and our daughter, Melissa. You might remember this, I don't know. But one night, while watching Stephen, the Giants game was playing. I had this great idea. Knowing I had to get back Bob from the 2116 event many, many years ago, I told Nancy, let's dress up Stephen as a Giants fan. So we did that. We took a Polaroid picture of him. We have it still. I didn't see it. Okay, yeah. And then when Bob and Shirley came back, we shared the picture with Bob and Shirley and said, Stephen's had become a Giants fan. As you can imagine, Bob wasn't too happy. Obviously, we didn't think that through very well, as we were afraid that next time Bob and Shirley babysat Melissa, we didn't want to risk Bob buying her blue and becoming a baby Smurf. Baby Smurf. Most everyone is familiar with the HP beer bus. I miss those things. When getting ready to relocate from RA to building RB, RA was our first building we moved into up from the Bay Area. we had a beer bus, of course. We're leaving. The beer bus was in the back fence parking lot. It was great fun. However, as things started to wind up, someone noticed two guys getting in a truck, and they had a full keg of beer in the back of the truck. So we got news of that. So Bob ran to one gate, shut that gate there. Larry Turner and myself walked the other gate. And as we stood there, these guys in the truck pull up. They stop, they get out, and two guys turn to look at us, and lo and behold, one of the people in the truck was Bob's future brother-in-law, Bill. Angelique, you heard that story? Sorry, Bill, if you're... You know, I could go on for hours. There's so many stories about Bob and great times we had with him at HP. But I also need to let others speak. In closing, Bob was a very close friend to not only Nancy and myself, but to everybody at HP. He was a great coworker, manager, leader to everyone he worked with. He strongly believed in the HP way. He treated people with respect and kindness. We'll always remember him for his good humor, big smile, and always caring for everybody. Lastly, on the day that Shirley texted me that Bob had passed, Nancy and I were at Green Acres. I told her, listen, the song Knock, Knock, Knocking on Heaven's Door was playing over the sound system. Bob knocked once, the door opened wide for him. Thank you.
So I guess in other words, what Dave was telling you is my dad was the beer police for a long time, right? You know, it's funny, I didn't tell this story. I don't even remember what race it was. I'd have to try, I do so many races, I'd have to trace it back. But the first race that I did after my dad's passing, a dove flew by. And that was pretty amazing. Okay, so we have a lot of Hewlett-Packard people here, and one that's very special. A man that worked at Hewlett-Packard and knew my father for over 30 years and actually interviewed him at Cal Poly Pomona. So he wants to take all the credit for everything that followed. So I want to invite Charlie Vega up here.
I've only got 20 pages of notes, and if you're good, if you're nice, I won't use them all. Yeah, I knew Bob for a long time. I was actually only up here in Roseville for 8 years, and then went back and took a different assignment in software for HP. But we stayed in touch, and then because his parents were in Southern California, I'd get to see him a lot when he would come to town and things like that. I was down in San Diego, so it was great that we were to maintain that relationship for such a long time. It's one that I cherished. In my talk today, I'm going to try to focus in on one project in particular, fairly early in Bob's career. It involved both technical issues and, interestingly enough, political issues. We didn't have a lot of politics in HP, but in this case, we had it in spades. And I had picked Bob to be the leader of the team that was going to transfer in some products from Colorado. And so he had to face that, and I think the skill set, the kind of person you've already heard people talking about, was really perfect for that. I mean, if this wasn't a guy who was a real team player and could, was like low-key, easygoing kind of guy, I don't think this project would have come off at all. But before I start, I just want to ask your indulgence a little bit. So for the people who were in HP, they understand some of the things that were kind of going on in the business. So I'm going to have to set the stage for a few things so you understand why things turned out this way. So a few relevant business insights. And so I hope I won't bore you too much. And the good news is I will not be testing you on this at the end of the talk. So let's start with the mid-'70s in HP. And HP was transitioning into a computer company. And we in support, and at that time we were still in the Bay Area, we were trying to keep up because we had to expand dramatically for the kind of business that we were about to get in. And that's when we were doing just tremendous amount of hiring. I remember we got Bob in from Cal Poly. We were hiring people from the Cal Polys, and I think there was a school in Oregon, and I can't remember the name of it. Anybody? Huh? There it is. Yeah, and so we were just bringing people in at a fantastic rate, and Bob was a catch. Believe me, I think right away people saw in him somebody who was technically astute. He was very, very even-keeled, and he was a problem solver. Every task that we sent in Bob's direction, he dealt with well. So when you think about him, he was one of those people that you really wanted to move along because he was so good. And he actually moved from individual contributor to a supervisor position, then ultimately to a management position quite early for somebody new to HP. He was also picked as one of our pioneer employees. Remember I don't know if anybody else here in the room was a pioneer employee. That's the group that we sent up to Roseville to go into this building, this lease building called RA, Roseville Building A. And he was one of those people. Now, that building has a lot of history with the people who survived it. It was dark and gloomy. There were mice. There was an occasional snake. Whenever it rained, the building leaked. And so, there was at one stage we were saying, gee, maybe we should really do something for the people who were there and had to survive that building. So I had come up with the idea for a quad-day cockroach, because it did also have cockroaches. I forgot to mention them. Turns out we couldn't really go ahead with the quad cockroach medals that we were going to give to all these people. Turned into an international incident. I think the French were a little bit upset because they had this thing called the Croix de Guerre, and it was a big deal that that was for their heroes, so we canned that. But by the early 80s, SMO had moved itself, the operational portion of the business in any case, up to Roseville. And they occupied, in this case, not RA, but two very, very nice, very, very clean buildings. And we were in the midst of consolidating back from divisions spread around the country and around the world, but mostly here in the US, who were doing the repair work. We talked about these printed circuit boards. And one reason why they were important is that the way our field engineers troubleshooted a product was typically down to a printed circuit board. And then they would pull it out and they'd put one of our repaired boards in. Kiss the customer on the cheek and head out. And one of the transfer targets, and this is the project that I wanted to talk about, one of the transfer targets was a program called Green Stripe. It was it was out of Fort Collins, Colorado. And the product was a fairly narrowly marketed, but pretty sophisticated HP scientific desktop calculator. Very powerful machine. I think it was the 9800 series. And unfortunately, though, we were becoming a computer company. So one of the things that was going to happen to this particular product is, going forward, it probably was going to be obsoleted. Well, the management team in Colorado hated that and fought that. And I told you we were going to have a little bit of politics, right? This is where it comes in. Let me wet my whistle. So I was on the trip with Bob, and he had just part of his team with him, the initial trip to go out to Colorado and just kind of look things over and decide, what pace we were going to be making through their product line, et cetera, et cetera. Now, we knew nothing about what was going on, the pushing and pulling that was going on between the computer group on this side and this older product line that was in Colorado. Well, believe me, when we went into that site, I don't think I've ever in my 30 years with HP faced anything like this. It was a very, very bad scene. All of the people who worked in this program were wearing black armbands. And they had a big sign on the wall that said, Ayatollah Ely strikes again. They were talking about a fellow named Paul Ely, who you never wanted to cross, by the way, who was really the kind of czar for computers in Hewlett-Packard. He later on became an executive vice president, and he ran the computer business. Thank God, this was somewhat limited to just more of a department revolution than it was the whole facility. So we got ourselves a meeting with the site manager, with personnel, and very, very quickly all the signs, all the armbands were gone. But we're still faced with a major problem. And that problem is that if we're going to do this, properly learn the products, transfer the technology to California, and then be successful every day in meeting the customer's needs, the field engineer's needs for these parts, we had to do that cooperatively. And this is, why I was so glad it was Bob that I had chosen to say, you do this for us, because he was just the kind of guy with just the kind of characteristics that if anybody was going to pull this off, he would. And the other thing, he and I had a little tete-a-tete after that first day, and I was so glad to see that he was still steadfast. And he was assigned to be the captain of this transfer, and he wanted to remain the captain of this transfer. He was going to make it successful. He was always diplomatic, very, very necessary. It's almost like we were at war inside the company. But he was also just one of the best examples of what I would call an HP team player. And so if anybody could win these doubters over, I was pretty sure it was going to be Bob. And he had chosen some good people on his team. And same time, though, years later, because I was so pissed, I could barely talk that first day, but I remember years later thinking about those black armbands. And these were people these were not managers or politicians. These were people who just worked for a living, but they were pretty sure that their life was going to be negatively impacted by this transfer. Clearly, all of them were going to be facing different jobs, and some of them, God knows, might even lose their job. So they really had a lot of concerns. And hence, when somebody came up with the idea of the black armbands, they probably said, yeah. And one of the things that they rejected the most, by the way, was any move to California. We wanted to capture some of the intellect and the power that they had to perform the job by bringing them out to California. They hated the idea. They just weren't interested. And they were pretty vocal about that. And I said to myself, wait a minute, what? California's great, right? It's, the people there are the salt of the earth, right? Sure they are, absolutely, no question. But I think if you had their perspective, you wouldn't necessarily feel that way. As a matter of fact, a lot of people, surprisingly, looked at California and thought it was rather strange. And it's not a good place to be. I wrote down a couple of things that maybe help that particular feeling along. Number one, what was California called? Well, it was called the land of fruits and nuts. Remember that? Right? the land of fruits and nuts. And then many of them had heard about places like Berkeley, remember Berkeley? La La Land, Hollyweed, yeah? And actually near us, and I mean physically, not that far away from us, was Grass Valley. Now think about it, Grass Valley. I know it pays to advertise, and the realtors must have loved all the people that wanted to buy into Grass Valley. So they wanted to be close to the grass. I don't blame them. But anyway, then another thing to think about when you talk about California is it was the home of the hippie movement. It also was the home of a lot of the things that came to be known as the crazy 60s. Now, I think that is absolutely true that we in California began that. We actually did it in the 50s, just the rest of the country took 10 more years to catch up. And as a matter of fact, Berkeley, nice to have it so handy, played a major role in our making the 60s so crazy. And then finally, if anyone, maybe from Colorado, or maybe even you folks, have been to Venice Beach and seen what passes for normal down there, oh my God. Oh my God. 2 oh my gods. Oh, by the way, just an aside, I did a little research on oh my God. And today, as we speak, Florida, the entire state, holds the worldwide record for oh my God. 6 oh my gods. So when people think of Florida, they go, oh my God, 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 oh my God. So anyway, but still, these guys might have been right about California. One last thing. I didn't address the issue of the sign. So they had a sign up that said, depicting Paul Ely as the Ayatollah. And I said to myself, even at the time, no way. I mean, inside HP, we never thought of Paul that way. We really thought of him as Attila the Hun. That's who he was. He was very, very much like Attila the Hun. I think I've worked in HP for probably 4 Attila the Huns, and he was one of them. Okay, so now back to the transfers. So meanwhile, Bob and his team from Roseville did a great job of mastering the products. And they did another thing. By working side by side with the people in Colorado, they really started to build a relationship. So people saw them, gee, they're not so weird after all. They're kind of like us. They want to do a good job. They want to take care of the customers, et cetera, et cetera. And maybe working in Roseville might not be all bad. It probably also helped that Bob and his team did a really good thing by planning some things that were fun events. They had mini beer bus. Now, the fact that they had them weekly, and we had the budget. We were making a lot of money. And didn't know that. They also went on hiking trips up to Estes Park. As a matter of fact, that whole area in Colorado is full of great places to go hiking. Joined the softball team and played with the folks from Colorado. I think Bob purposely lost a great deal so that he could win friends and influence people. And during that period, the enthusiasm for this transfer grew. We had done multiple phases of it. The customer base, thank God, even though there was this turmoil right in the beginning, the customer base did not see any of that in their deliverables. So we were able to maintain a good relationship with the all-important customer base because we were going to support this product. Even though we were going to obsolete it from production, we were going to support it for probably at least 5 more years. And the transfers were finally completed at the end of 1980. And overall, it really was a great outcome. The project itself really cemented Bob's place in our minds. I think we really realized, and most of us knew it from before, but he just brought it home that how reliable and what a critical player he was to our entire enterprise. and which he continued to demonstrate successes after success in his entire career. So I am very proud to have been associated with Bob. I am sure that some of his strengths, and he had many, rubbed off on all those that worked with him. I can guarantee you some rubbed off on me. And finally, to Bob, I'd say, rest well, my friend. Thank you.
Okay, the last of the speakers that we had scheduled, and again, if anyone really wants to speak after, we can definitely do that. It's going to be my Aunt Rose Craighead, who was one of those O'Malley girls at Hewlett-Packard, who they kind of played matchmaker, I think, so she'll probably have some stories about that. So I want to bring up my Aunt Rose.
So I wrote my speech out. Hello, I'm Rose O'Malley Craighead, the eldest of the O'Malley sisters. Shirley is the youngest. I was the maid of honor at Bob and Shirley's wedding with the reception in this very hall. I'm honored again to be speaking at Bob's celebration of life. I'm an experienced public speaker, mostly stating facts about the software company I work for, but never at a celebration of life, so please bear with me as I share my story with you. The evening that Bob died, I wanted to recall my earliest, fondest memory of Bob. I knew him from working at Hewlett-Packard and wanted a special memory of mine that I could share with family and friends. Something light and fun, something that would epitomize Bob that we all knew and loved. While I would admit that my memory facts might not match what other folks have to say, I'm going to share my memory of the situation as I recall it. So this is my story, my way. I joined the Hewlett-Packard Bowling League in 1980 and was assigned to a team with Bob. Shirley came to visit my husband and I on a bowling night, so she went to Birdcage Lanes with me. Bob immediately struck up a conversation with Shirley, and by the end of the evening, I could tell that each was quite smitten with the other. Smitten, I said? How did I know? Well, Bob asked about Shirley every week, and some weeks Shirley was sure to visit on a bowling night so she could go with me. One evening, the bowling alley was quite chilly, and Bob lent his jacket to Shirley. At the end of the evening, Bob invited us to go to pizza with a group, but we declined since my husband was waiting at home. As Shirley and I got in the car, she realized she had Bob's jacket. Knowing where the pizza shop was located at Sunrise Mall, we headed over there. Bob was going up the steps into the building as we pulled up, so Shirley called out to him as she exited the car and went up the steps. So I waited in the car. After a while, I peeked down to see out the car window and up the steps. Bob and Shirley were in a conversation, so I waited in the car. After another while, I peeked down to see out the car window and up the steps. Bob and Shirley were kissing, so I waited in the car. After even longer, I peeked down to see out the car window and up the steps, and Bob and Shirley were still kissing. I immediately remember thinking, damn, he must be a good kisser. They haven't come up for air. So I waited in the car. Thank you for your time.
Okay, so this is the opportunity if there's anyone else that would like to speak. We want to have that open invitation to anyone that would like to say anything. Yes. Now again, like I said earlier, a lot of you know me, I don't know all of you, so be sure to introduce yourself, because I don't have an introduction for you. Pat, all right?
Hey folks, yeah, Pat Aiello, worked with Bob for many years. Actually, known Bob for more than half my years. So that's a good thing. Known him for about 35 years, so it's just barely more than half. There was one thing I wanted to read, which may be very familiar to some of you. You may have heard this before, but a couple of things to remember, and Shirley, bless you and your family. So Bob and I shared a couple of things. One, our physical height. He wasn't exactly as tall as I was, but he was certainly above average. Two, love of family. One of the things that we would talk about often to each other and about each other. Three, sports fans, though we were on the other side of the fences. I'm a Giants fan, he's a Dodgers fan. We had some political differences as well, God bless him, but we'd always come around to a hug. We had some health challenges together where we would find each other and meet each other at the worst place, like in a hallway at a hospital. So, we're both, what are you doing here? Well, what are you doing here? Well, I'm here for this. Well, I'm here for that. And now most recently, we're both cancer survivors, I'm going to call it. Bob's inspiration with his fight was epic. So one of the other things we share is we were Knights of the Altar, so altar boys. Imagine, I know the horns aren't showing right now, but they typically would. And this is such a great picture of Bob. One of the things that comes immediately to me were his little pointed eyebrows, which was just I don't know, it was just so, you'd see him, he'd smile, and that was one of the things that I'd always remember. And then just the sparkle of his eye. So anyway, Bob, I want you to rest in paradise. And this is a poem that I've read. I like it. I try to live it. And for those of us still here, here's a challenge. It's called The Dash. Excuse me. I'm going to choke up. I know I will. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke to the following dates with tears, but said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For the dash represents all the time they spent alive on earth, and now only those who love them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left when that still can be rearranged. To be less quick to anger, to show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that with this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you lived your dash? Rest in paradise, Bob.
All right, again, this mic's open if anyone, go ahead, sir, absolutely. And again, be sure to introduce yourself. All right, Mark's stepping up here.
I'm Mark Frazier. I had the honor of knowing Bob since September of 1976. Worked with him throughout that period of time. And the number of funny, positive moments that we shared over that period of time is insurmountable. I knew Bob when he was a young, carefree, single guy, living in an apartment within a staggering distance of St. James Infirmary, which proved to be a good thing on many occasions, as Dave can testify. And while I didn't have Bob as a trainer, Dave, I too got put on the 2116 because I was an Oregon Tech guy, not a Cal Poly guy. So that's where the malcontents ended up, was starting on the 2116. Bob was one of the first pioneers to come up here. I was one of the ones that turned out the lights in Cupertino with the final move and had a chance to come up. As I said, I worked with Bob. I had the honor of having Bob work for me in the period of time. And we shared not only HP, but we shared a couple of, let's say, colorful exchanges as well. I took my two boys to Bob and Shirley's house to watch the very first WrestleMania because Bob had cable and pay-per-view. So there was the love of the WWE. As Chris said, you know, he came with that. It sounds like you planted the seed back when in the bowling days, and then he just carried it through to the show that it is today. But the other thing is, Bob and I were avid Gong Show fans. Bob and I were at the opening night in Sunrise Mall to see the Gong Show movie when it first came out, and then we discussed all the things that were or weren't right and wrong with that. So we've got that. Lastly, Brenda and I were just back in Colorado for my grandson's wedding, and we made a swing up to Timnath. And Gordon will remember the Colorado Feed and Grain, which has grown up not from just the little burg that it was for the weekly beer bus when Bob was helping host back there, but to this very illustrious building on the side of the road. And the little town of Timnath is now surrounded by $400,000 homes. So time has passed in the 43 years, but the one thing that will never change is Bob will always be a great friend, and he will be missed tremendously. And Bob, be sure to say hi to Chucky and Jean the Dancing Machine for us.
Okay, I'm just going to keep looking out and saying if anyone wants to raise their hand, they're welcome to. Well, I just want to say thank you to all of you for being here. It was so special for me to be the one that received a lot of the RSVPs and a lot of the people that had to decline, because like I said, I heard just amazing stories. A story that I told on Friday was one of the things my dad started to do later in life was go to Thunder Valley, and of course he was in the blue section, the smoke-free non-drinking section. And there were only about 6 video poker machines in that room at Thunder Valley. So you get to know the people around you. And so a lady emailed me, declined the invitation, but could tell me everything about me and my daughter Ruby and about Sean and his son Teddy, and knew the whole life story just from video poker. So I think that was a common thread. There's probably a lot of people that know me that I have no idea about. He could probably pull up to you in a traffic jam and start, hey, I've got a son named Sean and a son named Steven, and I worked at Hewlett-Packard, and I'd probably get an email someday. I met him on the Ventura Freeway. There was a crash. Like, you never know, right? So this has been really cool. It was supposed to be a celebration, right? I think there's been a lot of celebrating taking place. Family has been so important during this whole time, and really want to thank my cousin Angelique. Oh boy, she's been a big help. My Aunt Rose has been a big help. It's been great having Carrie here. It's been great having all of our family here. And there's still a lot of time to celebrate. We have the building until 5 o'clock, and we have lots of great things to see in the back and lots of memories and visiting. So I just want to say thank you, and we love Bob. Thank you.